Well, good Wednesday morning to you guys. Appreciate you being here on Freedom 1300. That's freedom1300.com for those of you that are outside of the Golden Triangle area. But welcome, everyone in Beaumont today. I hope that today is going to be an excellent day for you. It's certainly going to be an excellent day for me because I am getting on a plane after this show and I'll be heading back home. So I'll be out of this hotel room at that point in time, and it'll be nice. But in any case, wanted to get with you on the news today. So what do we have going? Well, I got some good news for you. Now, when you first hear it, you're going to wonder, how is that good news? Well, here's what it is. A first warship been lost since World War II here. After they assigned a BLT commander to run this ship. Now, you might say, well, why does that have anything to do with anything? Well, gosh, I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But anyway, this female who is married to a female was put in charge of this warship. And that's what she's been doing, driving that warship around. Unfortunately, she ended up driving it up on a reef, running it aground. The vessel caught fire. They were able to get the entire crew off. 3 of them were hospitalized. But unfortunately, the ship is no more. It burned to the keel. So that's the end of that. But meanwhile, Yvonne Gray, the commander of that ship, an avowed lesbian who originally worked for the United Kingdom's Royal Navy, took command of this ship in New Zealand in December of 2022. So that means that she has had almost 2 years of successful ship driving before she ran this on the ground. So, I guess that, no, she wasn't driving a ship all that time. This is her first time opportunity to take a ship still in its infancy and for that ship. And she said, I want to help those who carry our Navy into the future. Well, she certainly has. So the ship is now an unprecedented post-war disaster for the New Zealand Navy. And thank God it was the New Zealand Navy. But guess what? They're trying to do this crap to our Navy too. So while the ship was uninsured, because after all it belonged to the government, there is some coverage to offset the future salvage operation. Officials are thankful that even though they lost a ship, no actual lives were lost. Meanwhile, New Zealand Defense Minister Judy Collins, yeah, that's her name, said the disaster response was something of a triumph, noting it was very, very difficult to get to this wreck. She said it could have been a truly terrible day. But the good news is because the driver of the ship was a lesbian, it was not a terrible day. Meanwhile, the ship was worth $100 million. It's not sure. The government's going to have to eat the whole $100 million. And they're hoping that it was lost through some failure in hardware because they would hate to think that just because they had a lesbian driving the boat that they lost it. So, unfortunately, New Zealand's Navy is so small, they only have 5 workable ships. So the loss of this one is a big deal. Professor David Cappy of Victoria University of Wellington Center puts the decimation of the island's national naval forces in perspective. He said, when you think about New Zealand, the enormous maritime environment and the increasing calls on the defense forces to respond to disasters, it's a very challenging environment, and you only have 5 ships. It's a very concerning place to be. Fortunately, New Zealand is alongside of Australia, and so maybe Australia can step in and help out a little bit. But anyway, if you want my advice, don't take someone who is suffering from mental illness and put them in charge of a $100 million boat because you're just asking for trouble. And now this. Meanwhile, an Afghan national residing in Oklahoma was arrested on October 7th for allegedly plotting a terrorist attack on Election Day. He is apparently working on the behalf of the organization ISIS. Oklahoma City resident Nasir Ahmad Takwadi, age 27, is accused of conspiring to carry out violent attacks targeting large gatherings of Americans. The defendant, motivated by ISIS, allegedly conspired to commit a violent attack on Election Day right here in America. Apparently, FBI Director Christopher Wray was aware of this. Tawhidi, Tawhedi, allegedly took steps to prepare for the attack. He liquidated all of his family's assets, resettled his relatives overseas. He bought guns and ammunition, and according to the Department of Injustice, he was arrested after purchasing 2 AK-47s and 500 rounds of ammo during a sham gun deal that was set up by the FBI. You guys need to be very careful when you're buying guns because the FBI is looking to entrap American citizens as well. The fact that the FBI is involved in setting up this deal makes me wonder if the guy was really a terrorist at all. That's just me. I'm a conspiracy theorist. Meanwhile, a juvenile co-conspirator from Afghanistan residing in Oklahoma was arrested along with him. The complaint states that Tawhidi entered the United States on a special immigrant visa in 2021, but he's been very active in pro-ISIS Telegram groups. He allegedly communicated with an ISIS recruiter and expressed interest in becoming a martyr. FBI agents uncovered post-financial transactions Google searches linked to Tawhidi that further detailed his plot to commit this mass shooting on Election Day. The criminal complaint alleges that Tawhidi's phone contained communications between him and an individual involved in recruiting, training, and indoctrinating people interested in terrorist activities, whom Tawhidi believes to be linked to ISIS. The complaint references several messages that he allegedly sent through Telegram, which is, of course, not a secure messaging system, in which he talked about acquiring the AK-47 rifles to execute his planned attack. We found a person who deals with weapons, Tawhidi wrote in the message, and we have ordered 500 bullets. What do you think, brother? Is it enough, or should we increase it? In other words, Tawhidi talked about selling his house for $185,000 and arranging for his family to move abroad in the months leading up to the planned attack. The investigators also noted Google searches that he allegedly made, including queries such as how to access Washington, D.C. cameras, and which U.S. state does not require relations to get a firearm. Additionally, a video from July 20th showed him reading to 2 children about the rewards of martyrdom in the afterlife. Tawhidi was allegedly advising them the best way to get your 72 virgins in the afterlife is to die in jihad. Tawhidi also accessed, viewed, and saved ISIS propaganda on his iCloud and Google accounts, participated in pro-ISIS Telegram groups, and donated to a charity that serves as a front to funnel money to ISIS. Remember, they're always watching. The complaint states that Tawhidi and his juvenile co-conspirator advertised their family assets for sale on Facebook before the planned attack. A FEEB informant posing as a gun dealer responded to their ad, met them at a rural location to test the firearms. Tawhidi expressed interest in buying 2 AK-47 rifles, probably one for him and one for his young sidekick, like Batman and Robin. On October 7th, Tawhidi and the juvenile met with the FBI operatives in Oklahoma, where they purchased the 2 rifles, 10 magazines, and 500 rounds of ammunition. They were, of course, arrested immediately after the transaction because that's how they do these things. After being arrested, Tawhidi allegedly confirmed the attack was planned for Election Day. We will continue to combat the ongoing threat that is ISIS and its supporters and the threat they pose to America's national security, and we will identify, investigate, prosecute the individuals who seek to terrorize the American people, said Merrick Garland, our otherwise worthless Attorney General. Meanwhile, Tawhidi faces charges for conspiring to support ISIS with a potential 20-year sentence and for receiving a firearm for the purpose of terrorism, which could add 15 years to that sentence if he's convicted. So I don't know, learn from this, guys. I'm glad they caught this guy. He does seem like a bad guy, but you got to remember the Phoebes are telling the story, and you know how trustworthy they are. I want to thank Caden Pearson with the Epic Times for that story. Well, last month, the Teamsters Union rocked the political world when they announced that they would not endorse a presidential candidate in the 2024 presidential election. The last time they didn't endorse a candidate was 1996. According to internal polling, the Teamsters members, 58% support Donald Trump, 31% backed Cami. Well, on October 3rd, the International Association of Firefighters followed the Teamsters' footsteps by refusing to endorse either candidate after it took unprecedented steps to hear our members' views on the candidates and the policy issues that matter most to them. Interesting, the International Association of Firefighters was the first prominent union to endorse Joe Biden in the 2020 election. They thought nobody else knew how really far gone he was. The International Association of Firefighters represents approximately 300,000 career firefighters and first responders. The executive board determined that we are better able to advocate for our members and make progress on issues to the things that matter to them if we as a union are standing shoulder to shoulder. The decision, which we took very seriously, seems to be the best way to preserve and strengthen our unity. So this is really crazy. Absolutely crazy, because most of these labor unions are pretty hardcore leftists pushing for communism. And for them to not endorse the obvious communist candidate in the race, that's saying a lot. So they say that Hillary Clinton, they couldn't endorse her in 2016 after talking to the membership. And now the Democrat Party seems to support mass migration, wokeism, women pretending to be men, men pretending to be women, women embracing the boss babe identity, which makes them toxic to the rest of the electorate. The Republicans would be wise to hit Harris on these flaws and distinguish themselves as the national populist alternative to the globalist elitism of the modern day Democrat Party. Well, you can see where this is going. You got to get out and vote. You got to get your friends out and vote. We have got to win this election. We've got to overwhelm it. It would be nice if for the first time ever we had 75% of real Americans voting. See you tomorrow.